Hi, it's Jack, and this is the podcast version of this episode. If you want to read the words as they're being analysed, then if you're on Spotify, you can become a subscriber of this channel or head over to the YouTube channel. And on both platforms, you can also sign up to get exclusive episodes and early access to the regular weekly episodes too. Amy Bradley's disappearance has fueled endless debates. A Netflix series, podcasts and internet theories too. But what cuts through the noise are the words of someone who was there the night that Amy Bradley went missing. Talking about a key suspect, a guy called Alister Douglas. You might know him as Yellow. And this is a statement investigation into what was said about Alister Douglas and what those words might reveal. Welcome to Never a Truer Word, where we look at the words that people choose to use to see if they're telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. If you're new here, what I do is different from anywhere else because I break down everything that is said by the people at the heart of the story and take nothing else into consideration, just focusing on the words. And then I use my process of statement investigation to give you the key to seeing the truth, where deception could be happening and where the motivations of the person talking might lie. It's a process that I use with corporate clients, with investigators, and with the media to get a deep understanding of what is being said. So the guy we're going to look at is a guy called Oscar Alexander. Oscar was roommate of Yellow. He was also a band member with Yellow on the ship, and he was there the night that Amy Bradley went missing. Now, I've done this analysis before. I did it as a live. The sound broke up a bit towards the end, so that's why I'm reissuing this, because I don't like to do anything half-assed. I want to give you the full analysis that you can listen to comfortably. Oscar Alexander released a statement to True Crime this week. I put a link to them in the channel. They've covered the Amy Bradley story in a lot of depth. I encourage you, if you're interested in Amy Bradley, to check out that channel. Now, Oscar Alexander talks about Yellow, and I've analysed Yellow's words before, and I did not like them because when I looked at Yellow, I found so many red flags. He was raising them left, right, and centre. He'd used something very strange once. He was talking about going to his cabin and he said, I went to the cabin. He corrected himself. Was he talking about himself and Amy there? Huge red flag for me, that one. He didn't deny very much either. In fact, there was no denial in what he said at all. Lots of storytelling, lots of explanations, no denial that he had anything to do with Amy's disappearance, and he avoided some of the hardest questions too. So I've got big question marks over Yellow, and did he have a role in the disappearance of Amy Bradley? So let's hear what Oscar Alexander has to say.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Oscar Alexander. This is what I could tell you, what I remember. And it's the honest truth. What I remember is that we was in a band, was 4 of us in a band. We was the Calypso band on the Rhapsody of the Seas. And Royal Caribbean have, at that time, let us have something called Dancing Under the Stars. So we was playing. And by playing, Alister, which is Yellow, end up talking to Amy Bradley, he talked to her. Now, the thing about it now is that he talked to her and she left and she go. Now, I never see Alister leave with her, nothing like that. I'm his roommate, and when we finish play, we come back down to our cabin, and around, let's say about after 3 in the morning, after 3, 4 in the morning, around that time, somewhere there, the security came and knocked on our cabin, They knock, they wake us up, they search the cabin, they say Amy Bradley is missing. Amy Bradley was nowhere to be found in our cabin, because if Amy Bradley was in the cabin with Alister Douglas and I am in the cabin, I'm his roommate, I would have get fired from Royal Caribbean, you understand? Because that is against company policy to bring guests or passengers in your cabin,
Let's break that down then. That's the first half of Oscar's statement, and it starts, it's not a good start. Hi, good afternoon, this is Oscar Alexander. This is what I could tell you, what I remember, and this is an honest truth. Hi, good afternoon. This is Oscar Alexander. This is what I could tell you. Now, you can hear him talking there. I don't know if English is his first language or if he speaks a localized version of English that is perfectly acceptable to him. I don't know that, so I'm not going to zone in on single word choices sometimes, because if he is a non-native speaker, he may be using translated words in his head. Don't quite work for us, but do work for him. I'm going to look at more the concepts of the way he talks and the things he chooses to talk about, although I'm going to look at some words sometimes because they're interesting to look at. So this is what I could tell you. Potentially that really translates to us as this is what I can tell you. Well, that is the very first thing he says. It's a priority. Once he introduces himself, this is what I can tell you. Not this is everything, not here comes the truth, not launching into the story, but this is what I can tell you. Suggested there's some things that he cannot tell us, or there's some things he will not tell us. It doesn't suggest we're getting everything, it's just this is what I can tell you. Suggests this is going to be limited. As does the next phrase. What I remember, so not everything that happened, not I know everything that happened, or, I have full recall of what has happened. It's just what I remember. And when people tell us they remember things, I'm always a little bit wary, because either things happened or they didn't happen. But what I remember at least gives some deniability if something were to come up and he was not being proved accurate, and he can say, oh, that's how I remember it. So we've got this limitation. This is what I could tell you. This is what I remember. So the thought here very much is there are other things. This is not the sole single truth that he may be telling here. And then he tells us, and this is an honest truth. Always very wary when someone tells us they're being honest. Why do they feel the need to tell us they're being honest? Truthful people in general, they just tell the truth. They don't feel the need to convince us that they are telling an honest truth, that they are being honest. The people that do that are liars a lot of the time. Someone who will come up and tell you before you even challenge them, this is the truth, this is an honest truth. He really wants to convince us he's telling the truth. Why is that? There is one reason that you might use those sort of phrases, and that's if you're being challenged. So even if you're being honest, so if I saw Madonna at my gas station and I said to you, I've just seen Madonna at the gas station, and you said, no way, you're having me on, and I'd be like, no, honestly, that would be me convincing you and using some of that language while still telling the truth. When my honesty, when my credibility is challenged, then I will say, no, I'm being honest. So has his credibility been challenged? I don't know. Has this guy been called out before, or have people not believed him before? That would explain why he would use phrases like that. Or he feels a real need to convince us that he's telling the truth. Why would that be? Potentially because he's not. So look, all the red flags just in those opening 15 words. I'm being very limited. This is what I can tell you, what I remember, and this is an honest truth. Just sticking with that phrase, an honest truth. That makes it sound like there's more than one honest truth. There is just a single truth, but this is an honest truth, as if there's more than one of them. And as opposed to what? A dishonest truth? An honest lie? It's really over-egging the pudding. It's honest and it's a truth. The two things don't need to be repeated. Really wants us to believe he's telling the truth. What would the reason for that be? Then he says, what I remember was we was in a band, was four of us in a band. We was the Calypso Band and the Rhapsody of the Seas. And Royal Caribbean have, at that time, they have something called Dancing Under the Stars. So this is about Amy Bradley, a young woman whose disappearance happened many years ago, haunts her family still, and is unsolved. No one knows what happened. And yet his priority memory is we was in a band on a boat. And we played in something called Dancing Under the Stars. It's a scene-setting memory rather than Amy Bradley was seen by me on this night. It's not leading with Amy Bradley, it's leading with him and his reason for being there at the time. I also want to know, because Yellow did the exact same thing when I analysed him, he name-checked the show they played in, or the event that was happening, Dancing Under the Stars. Why is that? Why are they both very, it's a long time ago. Recollections will fade and dim or get mixed up, but they both specifically and gave the same name to the night, Dancing Under the Stars. Why is that? Was it a career highlight? Or did it really stand out for them as a great night? Or did it happen outdoors, hence why it was called Dancing Under the Stars, and this sets the scene for the fact this show happened outdoors? I don't know. If you've got any thoughts on that, do leave them in the comments. But why they name-checked Dancing Under the Stars. When I did this as a live, someone suggested that they really remembered it because it was a great way to pull females. This Dancing Under the Stars thing could be, it could be a life highlight rather than a career highlight. Like maybe musically it was kind of basic, but in a lifestyle way, it was great for them. They loved doing this gig, but they both strongly remember this Dancing Under the Stars gig. It's very important to them. Oscar continues, so we was playing, and by playing, Alister, which is yellow, end up talking to Amy Bradley. He talks to her. Again, strange wording. We was playing, and by playing, Alister end up talking to Amy Bradley. So he seems to be suggesting that by playing, Alister ended up talking to Amy Bradley. What was it about the playing that got Alister talking to Amy Bradley? I don't know. I've got some thoughts so that would make these words make sense. If he was all eyes on Amy Bradley while he was playing, we've seen musicians like play to one person in the crowd. Was there parts of the show where you touch audience members, dance with audience members? Because Dancing Under the Stars, is that what he was doing? Had he set his stall on pulling basically Amy that night? Now that would make those words make sense. We don't know if that's what happened or not, but that by playing, Alister ended up talking to Amy Bradley. Could it be the other way around? Was Amy making it very clear she was interested in Alister? She was enjoying his performance. She wanted, to spend some time with him. It could be those things, but by playing, Alister end up talking to Amy Bradley is what is said there. Slightly at odds, I think, with Yellow's story, which is that they spoke after the show, and there was no mention of because of playing there. But hey, there we go. You'll notice that he talks about the fact that Yellow and Amy Bradley talked. They end up talking, he talked to her. And he says, I think 4 times here that they talked to each other. Really important for him to get across that they talked. Potentially that is, they talked and nothing more, and that's what he wants to get across. So he's hitting that point again and again and again. We also have end up talking to Amy Bradley. That suggests a jump in time. Something happened. They were playing and he ended up talking to Amy Bradley, and he's skipping over the part and hyphenating that, shortcutting that with end up talking to Amy Bradley. So again, is he hiding something here about the reasons why they spoke, and that he doesn't want to bring those reasons to the fore? So he was playing and he ended up talking to Amy Bradley, and he is omitting the part of why they ended up talking or how they ended up talking. He then says, now, the thing about it now is that he talked to her. 2 nows in there. Now, the thing about it now is that he talks to her. Well, why is it different now? The thing about it now is that he talked to her. Wasn't it the same then? Or are you telling a different version of the story now? Is this they ended up, and by playing they ended up talking? Did something go on? I don't know what it was. I'm not even suggesting that it was a really bad thing that happened, but it's some part of the story he doesn't want to tell, which is why now he talked to her. But at the time, did something more happen? Or did something else happen? But now he talked to her, because he's saying that talking word again. Talking to Amy Bradley, he talked to her. Now is that he talked to her. And then he says, and she left and she go. Now, I never see Alister leave with her. Nothing like that is what he says. She left and she go. I never see Alister leave with her. Nothing like that. Now, we've got that word never there, which appears in Deception a lot. It sounds a very concrete big word. Not at any time. Never. In Deception, we see a lot that people say never, and when we dig into it, like, my child has never done anything wrong. They have. Every child has done something wrong. When we dig into that word never, so often people are not using it in that big, solid, all-expansive way in which the definition of never truly means. We have never, and it feels like a really big, solid word, but in use, it's very flimsy, and people get their way around it a hell of a lot. Now, I never see Alister leave with her. Nothing like that. So he says it twice. Never see Alister leave with her. Nothing like that. It's twice. Never saw Alister leave with her. Why the need to convince us that he never saw Alister leave with her? And also, is he opening it up there to the fact that Alister could have left with her? I never saw Alister leave with her, but it could have happened. That would be wording we could use. Nothing like that. I didn't see anything like that. And notice that he's telling us what he didn't see. I never see Alister leave with her. Nothing like that. He doesn't tell us what he sees. So he doesn't say that he saw Yellow talking to Amy Bradley, even though he says they talked. 3 times it is he said they talked. He says that she left and she go, but he never says he saw those things. He's telling us what he didn't see, but the things he's saying that happened he's not telling us that he saw those. He then sets some more saying, I'm his roommate, and we finish play, we come back down to our cabin. So we finish play, that suggests him, the man talking, Oscar and another person, at least one other person. So that, I'm guessing, because he's been introduced as a roommate and they're talking about the cabin, this would be Yellow. We finish play, we come back down to our cabin. Now, we come back down to our cabin. Now, I'll grant you that maybe if they'd left their cabin to go and play, you would say, back down to our cabin. But is this actually another time they went back to the cabin? So they went to a cabin the first time and then went back to the cabin the second time. The word back just makes me a little bit curious there, but it's we, so the pair of them seem to have done it together. Now, if you listen to Yellow's telling of the story to True Crime this week, that's not the same story. So one of them is not telling the truth, because Yellow says that they finished playing. He talked to Amy for a bit. He went downstairs and changed, showered, and then came back up and spoke to Amy some more. But that is not what Oscar is saying. Now, they both cannot be true. They are very, very different things. Also, there's no time put on this. We come back down to our cabin. We finish playing. We come back down to our cabin. There's no time. But then we get a time of sorts, because it's the vaguest time I've ever heard described. Around, let's say, after 3 in the morning, after 3, 4 in the morning, around that time, somewhere there, the security come and knock on our cabin. You'll notice what that's all saying there. Around, let's say about 3 in the morning, so it's around, let's say about 3 in the morning, 3, 4, okay, now around 3, 4, well, that's like nearly 3 hours would be in that time frame. In the morning, around that time, somewhere there. I mean, look, he wants to put a time on it, but he's really not putting anything like a firm time on it at all. And also, this doesn't square with the story that I know and has been told by Oscar Alexander, which is that Amy was not reported missing until the next morning, not in the middle of the night, like 3 or 4 in the morning, but the next morning. And then they started looking for Amy. So, again, two stories, Yellow's and Oscar Alexander's, do not square. The security came and knock on our cabin, They knock, they wake us up, they search the cabin, they say Amy Bradley is missing. I quite like the fact of they knock, they wake us up, they search the cabin. That all feels quite intuitive. It's very short, there's no persuading. It's got a detail in there that you might not think to put in a constructed story, which is they knock and wake us up and they search the cabin. I do want to know, in his telling, if Amy Bradley went missing, why they went to that cabin first or so soon or so quickly, if we believe what he says. What he's saying is 3 or 4 in the morning, Amy went missing and they went to that cabin very quickly to see if Amy Bradley was there. They say Amy Bradley is missing. I think it's paraphrasing, there is a missing woman or something like that. But look at the detail that we've got. He's very light on detail. Think back to 4 of us in the band, and there was a boat, and it was called the Rhapsody of the Sea. It was run by Royal Caribbean, and there was a night called Dancing Under the Stars, and then we finished playing, we come back to our cabin. Very light on details compared to that, as was the fact that Yellow talked to Amy Bradley. So, and all of this details, really light. Then he gets really curious. Amy Bradley was nowhere to be found in our cabin. Now think about that phrase, nowhere to be found. I use that, and you probably use that, when you expect something to be found there. For example, I've lost my keys. I know I let myself into the house with them yesterday, but I've searched all over the house and they're nowhere to be found. My credit card's not in my wallet. I'm sure it was in there, but it's nowhere to be found. It's not in my purse either. That's when you use nowhere to be found, is when you expect the thing that you're searching for to be found in the place that you're searching, but it's nowhere to be found. It's not Amy Bradley wasn't in our cabin, or never was in our cabin, or we didn't have anyone in our cabin, it was just me and Yellow. No. Amy Bradley was nowhere to be found in our cabin. Really strange wording, really worrying wording as well. It's as if that he accepts the fact that Amy Bradley could have been in the cabin. And he gives a reason for why Amy Bradley was nowhere to be found in the cabin. Because if Amy Bradley was in the cabin with Alister Douglas and I'm in the cabin, I'm his roommate, I would have got fired. Not, they didn't find Amy Bradley in the cabin because she wasn't in the cabin, because she wasn't there, or because she'd never been there. No, it's a very strange reason. If Amy Bradley was in the cabin with Alister Douglas and I am in the cabin, I'm his roommate, I would have got fired from Royal Caribbean. If Amy Bradley was in the cabin with Alister, Oscar's saying he would have got fired. Why would they fire Oscar if Amy Bradley was in the cabin with Alister? I mean, you're his roommate, you'd have to be there as well and complicit or something like that to get fired, I'm guessing. But really, the reason that Amy Bradley was not in the cabin is because Amy Bradley wasn't in the cabin. But no, the reason Amy Bradley was not in the cabin is because he would get fired. Have you heard of an embedded confession? That is when the words, the bad words, are right there in the middle of a sentence. If you go outwards, they may be taken away by ifs and buts and maybes. And here it is loud. Amy Bradley was in the cabin with Alister Douglas, is what is said by Oscar there. Amy Bradley was in the cabin with Alister Douglas. Now, when he said it, he's put an if before it, as if to say it never happened, but he said the words. He is open to the thought, I believe, that Amy Bradley was in that cabin with Alister Douglas. At the least, he could have knowledge that Amy Bradley was at one point in the cabin with Alister Douglas, but in his telling of the story, and if we believe his words to be true, he's not discounting the thought that Amy Bradley could have been in the cabin. He's just saying she wasn't at this point. That's where we're nowhere to be found. If Amy Bradley was in the cabin with Alister Douglas, I'm going to get fired. Then he says, you understand, because that is company policy. Now, very much like Yellow, when he's talking, he leans on these rules of the company as to reasons why Amy Bradley could never, ever have been in the cabin, because it was the rules of the company. We don't all live by rules all the time. And we've got that you understand after it. And Oscar seems to use you understand like a bit of a crutch. Like some people use, or like a bit of a verbal crutch. But when he uses it, it comes after, I think, a point he really wants us to be sure of and believe. I would have got fired from Royal Caribbean. You understand? You got that? That I would have got fired if she was in the cabin, okay? Because that's against company policy to bring guests or passengers in your cabin, So let's look at that first half of the statement. I mean, for me, there's two things. The detail of the ship and the band and the event, really vivid detail there in the storytelling from Oscar, versus Amy. Hardly any. Did he even see her? Did he see her talk to Yellow? Because he doesn't use those seeing words at all when he talks about what he says happened, the talk and Amy Bradley leaving. He only ever tells us what he didn't see. And he really seems open to the idea that Amy could have been there in the cabin. Let's get the second half of Oscar's statement.
And we was the FBI came and they do the investigation. They put the whole ship, most of the crew member, under lie detector test. All of the crew member passed it, you understand, including Alister Douglas passed it, including me passed it, everybody passed it, And Alister Douglas was clear by the FBI, you understand? And the honest truth, what I believe is that I pray to God that Amy Bradley family find the person or the people whoever did that crime, you understand, on that ship. But Alister Douglas is an innocent man. Alister Douglas had nothing to do with Amy Bradley's disappearance. He is innocent, and I will swear on the Bible to that, you understand? My opinion about that, I believe that the father and the brother have a big part to do with Amy Bradley's disappearance, you understand? And they are trying to frame Alister Douglas. But Yellow, Alister Douglas is an innocent man, you understand? And I will swear on the Bible to that. And this is the honest truth I am telling you. Thank you.
Okay. Doesn't really get any better for me, this statement. That part there starts with, and we was, the FBI came and they do the investigation. Now, he was going to say something else there. We was, what? This follows on from talking about that he would have got fired from the Royal Caribbean and that him and Alister were woken up by people wanting to search the cabin. And we was on, the FBI came and they do the investigation. They put the whole ship, most of the crew member on the lie detector test. Now, he's gone from the whole ship getting the lie detector test. Now, logistically, I don't know how that works if they were going to put the whole ship on the lie detector test. That's a lot of people to give a lie detector test to. The whole ship, most of the crew member on the lie detector test. So all of a sudden it's gone from the whole ship, which would be crew and passengers, to most of the crew members on the lie detector test. Now, look, I haven't seen the documentary. I don't know what happened. What I would want to know there is why he's focused on the crew members. because if someone went missing from the ship, I'm guessing suspicion could fall on anyone on that ship, passengers or crew. But for some reason, in Oscar's telling, the crew were the people that the suspicion fell on, and they were the ones that got the lie detector test. Then he says all of the crew member passed it. Interesting that all of the crew members could pass it when most of the crew members took it. So it would have been, everyone who took the test passed it. Look, it could be a slip. I think I'd be making that sort of slip as well at points in my life. But again, it's just been really strangely worded. It was the whole ship, then it was most of the crew members, then it's all the crew members. It's just not all hanging together. All the crew members passed it. You understand? Making sure you got that point, that the crew members passed the lie detector test. Did Alister Douglas pass the lie detector test? I'm not so sure. But he tells us, including Alister Douglas passed it, including me passed it, everybody passed it. I'm very keen to know why he is wanting to clear Alister Douglas first before himself. Because our natural, protective of ourselves way of being would be, I passed it, Yellow passed it, everyone passed it, and leading with yourself, putting yourself in safety first is a real strong psychological priority for us. But Oscar is the other way around. He's putting Alister first. Most important to him that he points out that Alister passed the lie detector test, then me, then everybody passed it, And Alister Douglas was cleared by the FBI, you understand? We've got that, you understand again. And he doesn't say Oscar himself was cleared by the FBI. All he wants to talk about is Alister was cleared by the FBI, and you understand again right after it. So what is going on there? It's really important to him. It's more important to him to say that Alister Douglas is in the clear for this than it is for Oscar to say he's in the clear for this. Why would that be? We'll come to that when we come to the conclusions. Then he starts again by trying to convince us that he's not lying. And the honest truth, what I believe is that I pray to God that Amy Bradley family find the person or people who did that crime. The honest truth. Well, what I believe, I pray to God, bringing God into it to show, we must really believe him because he's praying to God for this. Then people pray to God. That's serious stuff. And it's the honest truth. Again, honest truth, is there a dishonest truth? The honest truth, what I believe is, so is he trying to convince us that he's being honest about what he believes? I think that's what's going on here. Just look at the word forms. And the honest truth, what I believe is that I pray to God. So what I believe is that I pray to God. He prays to God that Amy Bradley's family find the person or people who did that crime. This is an unsolved disappearance. Amy Bradley could still be alive. I know the chances are that something has happened to her, but it's unsolved. No one knows what happened. Frankly, Amy Bradley is missing. People have got theories, but no one knows for sure what happened as far as we know. And yet Oscar thinks it was a crime. There was a person or a people who did that crime. And he's very, very specific. It's not who did the crime, if you know that some bad things has happened, but you didn't quite know what had happened or who'd done them, it's the crime. But that crime is very specific. It's much closer to you than the crime. Whoever did that crime, he's talking about a very specific crime, and he's talking about it happening because he's talking about the family finding the person or the people who did that crime. You understand, on that ship. So what he's saying is there, he doesn't even say, it's a belief. He just wants the family to find the person, that there was a crime. That crime, someone did it, that crime on that ship. But Alister Douglas in it, Alister Douglas is an innocent man. Alister Douglas had nothing to do with Amy Bradley disappearance. He said really there the same thing twice. And when people say the same thing twice, they really want it to sink in. That could be a teacher teaching you a lesson. It could be me doing an episode and really wanting to make sure you get something I said. It can also be a liar who says the lie twice to make sure, number one, you've had a good opportunity to hear it. Number two, you think the consistency makes it more believable. And number three, if you've said it twice, you must really believe it. Alister Douglas is an innocent man. Alister Douglas had nothing to do with Amy Bradley disappearance. But he doesn't ever once tell us how he knows this. I was with Alister Douglas from the moment the band stopped playing till we were woken up and the cabin was searched. Well, that would be something for me to say, yeah, he really believes Alister Douglas didn't do this because he was with him all the time. I mean, maybe something happened when he was sleeping, but he doesn't ever once, not once, say he knows, how he knows Alister Douglas is innocent. He is innocent, and I will swear in the Bible to that. So repeating twice, innocent, and swearing on the Bible. It must be serious if he's swearing on the Bible. He must really believe it. You understand? So again, making sure you get the point. My opinion about that, I believe that the father and brother have a big part to do with Amy Bradley's disappearance. Oh, well, hang about. A minute ago, you said that whoever did that crime, and you wanted the family to find the person that did that crime, which suggests the family are over there, the crime is over there, and you want the family to be aware of who did that crime. And now all of a sudden, you believe that the father and the brother have a big part to do with the disappearance, i.e. they're involved in it. And it's the two things can't be true. You understand they're trying to... You understand. There it is again. They have a big part to do with Amy Bradley's disappearance. You understand. You understand. And they're trying to frame Alister Douglas. But Yellow, Alister Douglas is an innocent man. You understand? And I will swear on the Bible to that. And this is the honest truth I am telling you. Thank you. Really wants to persuade us that he is being honest, as Oscar. But why does he say on one hand it's a crime and he hopes the family gets some peace in finding out who did the crime? On the other hand, he says the father and the brother have a big role to play there. So, in conclusion, on Oscar Alexander's statement, I don't like how often he tells us this is the truth, that he is being honest, that he will swear on the Bible. He seems really keen to persuade us that he is not lying. And the people that do that tend to be not forthcoming with the truth. Just tend to be, but do tend to be. His description of Oscar and Amy's interaction, this talking and she left, it's vague and it's undetailed. I don't believe that this guy saw anything. I think he's repeating what he's been told, or maybe even asked to say, like give an alibi. I don't believe he saw anything. Oscar doesn't describe himself with Amy at all, by the way, at any point there. And I think that's a really important thing when we're coming to our conclusions here. He doesn't describe any interaction he had with Amy whatsoever, or deny any interaction with Amy as well. He's just repeating these things that Oscar taught to Amy. Oscar is very open to the fact that Amy could have been in the cabin, isn't he? He really is very open to the fact that Amy could have been in the cabin. She was nowhere to be found. Not she was never there. And his reasons why Amy wasn't found in the cabin, they're poor. They really are poor. He never actually says Amy wasn't in the cabin. Amy was never in the cabin. He doesn't use words like that at all. He's so open to the fact that she could have been there and does not say Amy was never in that cabin. And then he seems to believe that a crime has taken place that involves Amy's disappearance, although he's not very straight on what that crime is and who is involved in it. What do you think? Well, listen, someone in the live chat when I did this mentioned a wingman, and that's exactly, they said Oscar had wingman vibes. I think that's where I come down to. I think that for whatever reason, he's repeating and sticking to a story he's been asked to tell by Oscar, by Yellow. And potentially, at the time, that was something so that they wouldn't get fired from Royal Caribbean. I had a girl in my cabin. Please don't tell anyone. Just say you were here with me all night. You saw me talking to her. Then she left and then we both came down to the cabin. I think he might be doing that. And then it's just become a bit of a bigger lie. And it's become, something that's more problematic for this guy. But he's kind of got to stick to his story, hasn't he? Otherwise, everything all starts to come unraveling. That's what I think is going on with Oscar Alexander's statement. But what do you think? Do let me know in the comments if you can on this platform, or get in touch and give me your thoughts on social media. NeverAtruerWord.com is the website. While you're there, why not sign up for the monthly newsletter and get yourself regular hints and tips into how to seeing deception, the truth, and manipulation in someone's spoken or written words. You'll find out how to sign up for the newsletter at NeverAtruerWord.com, and we'll see you soon for something new from Never a Truer Word.